This video shows the Darwinet onboarding product. This allows customers of yours to go ahead and onboard employees directly through the website, filling out forms and all the other information you need to gather from the employees themselves. This website you're seeing right here, this is just a landing page I'm using to organize my different levels of Darwinet. This would be your website, so your PEO, your ASO, your actual website will have these links on the web page for your customers and employees to log in through the system itself. So when you're actually hiring a new employee, when your customer is hiring a new employee in the system, they would log into their standard area in Darwinet with their user ID and password. It checks what security rights they have, if they're allowed to add employees, etc. From this customizable dashboard, they can actually see what employees are currently going through the onboarding process. They can see it in more detail here, and they can actually hire new employees by clicking the Add button. So when they click the Add button, they can choose what type of employee they're hiring. All these different profiles are customizable based upon what tasks you want to have completed by the client or by the actual employee going through the pre-employment process. So when I take a look at this type of employee, this is a technician. Maybe this is more of a technical employee. They'll be at home doing some of these things, some of these steps that we're going to have them fill out their forms at home, etc. While a different type of employee might be in the office doing this at a kiosk. So when we hire this employee in the system, we'll actually go ahead. When we hire this type of employee, we'll actually go ahead and invite them to log into our website to be able to fill out their own forms. So let's make up an employee here, Carrie Logan, and then we'll have a date of birth, pseudo social security number, put an email address in, and then we'll have an original hire date and a start date, both being today. Any of these other fields are optional. I'll go ahead and fill them out just so we have them completed. Full-time regular, and then we'll choose an employee class which will bring in default values, pay codes and other things automatically, so we don't have to manually fill any of those things out. But once I click the Save button, this will go ahead and invite Carrie Logan to become part of my company. You can see the emails already come in here. We'll take a look at the email in just a second. But as the customer for this client of ours, this customer manager could go ahead and start the process themselves. They don't have to wait for the employee. These are the tasks we've assigned to the customer. Now, I can do this now, I can do it later, I can wait for the employee, or I can go ahead and get all these things done. So in this case, I'll go ahead and wait for the employee to do their steps. So let's pretend I'm now this employee, this Carrie Logan, that I'm hiring into the company. So Carrie Logan got this email right here. It says, "Hello Carrie, welcome to the company, and here is your login page." So this email is completely customizable. But once I click this invitation link is specific to Carrie Logan. So when I put in Carrie's information, Carrie Logan, and confirm who I am, just like that, it confirms, okay, Carrie Logan, you are who you say you are. Now create your own user ID and password. So I'll go ahead and create a user ID and password, and I'll save this just so I don't forget it. And once I click Save, that is my permanent login to Darwinet from this point moving forward. So even if I do become a fully hired employee, I will use Carrie Logan 12 as my user ID and then my password whenever I go in to look at paycheck stubs and things like that. So not only is that my user ID and password during the onboarding process, it'll be my user ID and password once I'm a permanent member of the system itself. So I'm going to skip the challenge questions for right now. Those are just if I forget my password at some point. And I get to my onboarding workflow or my onboarding wizard right here. So Carrie Logan comes in, sees the individual fields that the client's requiring from Carrie Logan, or that you're requiring from Carrie Logan. Anything in red is required. Once again, you can control what the required fields are. So I'll put in a little bit of information here. Put zip code and at least one street address in here, just like that. And once I've completed a step, I can click Save and continue working on the step, maybe because I want to reference the employee handbook right now, and I can look at any documents while I'm going through the process. So there's the Plastic Incorporated employee handbook that's going to be issued to Carrie Logan. Once I've completed a step, I just click Done. It takes me on to the next suggested step and will put a checkbox on any steps that I've completed. I can still go back to the step if I need to, but it is a completed step. And so then I just follow along the wizard based upon the fields and instructions that have been presented to me. So I'll come in and put in my number of exemptions, click Done, confirm my state information here, and say it's going to be my default state, save, and done. Any employee deductions, any voluntary deductions that have come in based upon my type of class will be presented here. Now in this case, this is presentation only because we're not letting Carrie Logan change her deductions. So she could optionally have been able to choose from a list of voluntary deductions if we want to give her the option to do that. It just depends upon how much control you want the employees and clients to have when they're doing these setup. So this is where she can put in any dependent information, direct deposit. If she has questions about how to find her routing number, we can put instructions, downloadable from the web. Any of those different things can be done directly on any of these steps. And along the way, if Carrie had any questions, she can ask for help along any of these steps. So let's say I get to the licenses step and Carrie says, well, I do need some help. I don't know what to do. I don't understand this step. The instructions aren't very clear. Once again, of course, you get to control the instructions. You can customize them however you want to. So when I actually click the help item here, I can say, I do not understand the licenses step, and I can send this request. Now, this help request can go to the client or to the PEO, or both. Just depends upon who's answering the questions. And that's what this email is alerting, in this case, the client. There's an onboarding question out there. So let's pretend I'm the client again for a second. I'm the manager of the person that takes care of hiring somebody like Carrie Logan, the technicians in the company. So if I log back out and I log back in as the customer, once again, I'm switching roles, I'm the customer now. As soon as I log in, I get a warning up here, there's an onboarding question out there. And I can go into my onboarding question monitor and see Carrie Logan does not understand the licenses step. I can reply, put in your RN license if appropriate. Save that. Carrie will get an email back, in addition to the fact that Carrie will be able to log back in, or if she was still logged in, she'd see this. She'll be able to log back in, and she'll be able to see there's the answer to her request, right in the same step, the licenses step. So she can say, I don't have any RN licenses, so she just continues. And then we get to the I-9 step, which is the last wizard step of the onboarding process. There's still a finalized page to go through. But first, when we talk about the I-9 step, this step actually allows you to either make them do it now, or they can hold it over for later. So it just depends upon what you and your customers are comfortable with. If it's held over for later, then you'll get a reminder on the customer screen we still have not verified their I-9. And this is the scenario where maybe Carrie Logan's, it's Wednesday in the middle of the week, she's filling all this stuff out at home, she won't be in the office till Monday, so you want to wait till Monday when she's physically in the office to do the I-9. It's really just a business decision on yours and the customer's point of view, whatever you want to do. So once we're past the I-9 step, I've put all of my fillable documents on the last step, the finalize page. And simply I did it that way. You can put these documents anywhere you want. But I know if she's filled out any information on any of these pages, that information will transfer automatically to these benefit forms or any of these other forms. That way she won't have to retype anything she's done over here. And Carrie at this point can still go back to any step and fill anything out. She still hasn't signed off on the entire process, so it's free form. She can still go through the steps. We suggest a path for her so she doesn't get confused, but she can go to any step she wants to at any time. So if I go back to the finalize page, now I can review my documents. I can click this button and it'll take me document by document, or I can simply choose a document I like to fill out. Now I clicked on Benefit Form 2014. That's this document right here that pops up. Notice it's already pre-filled with information. Now the reason we were presented with a web page before the document is if this document isn't very friendly, there might be some fields that are hidden on page 7, kind of like the I-9 is. We might want to go ahead and present a web page with custom fields added that will actually populate onto the form. So anything that Carrie puts onto this page will automatically transfer over to the document. So if I preview the document, you can see that information is now in here. So any custom fields we can put on there, and I click next, and it actually shows me the document itself with the information on it. So anything I've typed in during the wizard, any custom fields that you would want to add as a company can be added, and I can even type on the document if I wanted to add more information to the document itself. This once again depends on how friendly the document is. Once I click verify, it's going to make me put in my electronic signature here, and each document you can decide whether or not electronic signatures are required. That's up to you. So once I put this information into the system, click submit. Oh, and I messed up. No. There we go. So once we've got the signature done, we've now finished and verified that document. I can still go back and look at it, and if I do that, I can see here's my information, there's my electronic signature with the IP address and the date all associated with it. And so then I just simply walk through the different documents. I come in and I can take a look at the I-9. If I go down to page 7, there's my information. It'll have an electronic signature once I'm done with that. And then any custom documents specific to that company, there's that handbook again. In this case, I've decided that I want them to electronically sign the handbook also. Once again, it's custom. You can decide per document whether or not you require full electronic signatures or just partial ones. And we've signed that document. And finally, of course, the W-4 form, which will have the 3 allowances she claimed during the federal tax step. Click verify, and I submit that, and all my documents are done. So once Carrie has finalized all the required documents, finished all the different steps in the process, she simply finalizes the last page. So kind of the same process there, and once I put in my password, I submit this. It just gives us that, are you sure you're done type question, and we are sure, and we finished. So we'll get a notification right away to the customer, Carrie's done. So the customer can finish their things. Now remember, your customer, their manager of Carrie Logan, could have been working on all their stuff at the same time. They don't need to wait for Carrie. But either way, Carrie's at home. She finishes all her documents. Like I said, it's on Wednesday, the middle of the week. Now the manager can go in and finish off everything else they want to do. So if I go back in and sign in as the manager of Carrie Logan, so I'm back into the system, I can see here's Carrie Logan. Here's where she is in the process. She's completed everything while your customer is basically just starting. And I can look at any of the forms that Carrie Logan filled out if I wanted to. So I can see all those different forms in the system. So in the meantime, let's go ahead and get started with Carrie Logan and in the system. So if I come back in, we're at Carrie Logan, I click continue. It'll go ahead and take me to the first suggested step. So same type of concept as Carrie Logan went through. Your customer, as a manager of Carrie Logan, will walk through the kind of the suggested wizard for onboarding and finish off all these different things. So in essence, really, at this point, for a lot of these screens, the manager's really just reviewing the stuff Carrie put in. So reviews the personal information, reviews the tax information, reviews the state, everything looks good, just clicks done. Now the pay codes. These are the pay codes that came in. They can be manually added, or they can come in automatically from that employee class I chose at the beginning. So there's 4 pay codes to review. If I come in here and I look at their hourly regular pay and I type in this person gets $40 an hour, I save that, it'll roll down to all the other ones. So if I look at these other ones, the holiday pay was $40 an hour. If I look at the overtime pay, you can see that was $60 an hour. And if I wanted to change one, maybe for some reason this pay was different, I can still go in, even to the ones that are rolled down, and make changes if I need to. So I've added the pay to this employee. Same thing, review the deductions. If I need to change a deduction amount, I can do it right here. So uniform deduction, any voluntary benefits, the same concept. I can make changes to those things. If the employee put any dependents in, I can review those, review the direct deposit information. Add any PTO plans that might be available to this employee. Any licenses, if there's any of those, I can add those here too. And here's the I-9 step. I mentioned this, where this can actually be shown done later or done now. If I do it now, then I have to put in all the appropriate list A, B, and C information, or I can just say I'm going to hold this over and have this done later. So it's going to hold this over to a permanent part of the self-service site of Darwinet, and I'll be able to do those things at a later time. So once I, as a manager, have finished the process, I simply put in my information here, click Submit, and I'm done with Carrie Logan. You as the back office user will get a notification this employee's done. If you're using any of our workflows in the workflow modules, your onboarding workflows will kick off at that point. But that's simply how the client and employee walk through the onboarding process. Thank you.